Welcome to Faith and Global Hunger, a special Day 1 series in support of the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. We're pleased to have with us today President Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. President Carter, acclaimed internationally for his humanitarian efforts, is also former governor of Georgia and served as the nation's president from 1977 to 1981. In 1982, he founded the Carter Center in Atlanta to wage peace, fight disease, and build hope. Mr. President, how has your faith motivated your life of public service, both as a politician and as a humanitarian?
Well, I don't really see any incompatibility between the principles of a democratic nation based on freedom and human rights and my own Christian faith. I think the teachings of Christ, although they can't be applied directly in government, are basically the same principles that I followed when I took the oath of office to uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States. So there's no incompatibility. Christ is the Prince of Peace. And when I was president, I elevated keeping the peace to a top priority. And I think the principle of justice and the principle of honoring the rights of everyone equally and alleviating the plight of the poor and the disadvantaged and the suffering. All of those are principles of our nation and also principles of my faith.
You and Mrs. Carter have traveled to more than 120 countries, including many of the very poorest. What key lessons have you learned in relation to successful global development?
Well, it's not an accident that the countries that we visited have been mostly those where the people are poor and neglected and destitute and suffering or in need, because that's where we target our efforts at the Carter Center. And what I've learned, I think, more than I had ever known while I was in public office, is the fact that the poorest of people, whom we tend to underestimate, are just as intelligent and just as hardworking and just as ambitious and have family values just as good as mine. And if they're given a chance to improve their own lot in life, they respond with enthusiasm and with great effectiveness. So I think the basic thing is, to summarize, that we underestimate the people that are already suffering and don't realize that if we just give them a chance, they can overcome the causes of their suffering as much as possible on their own initiative, just with a little help from outside.
And what explains the very positive impacts of current development strategies in contrast to those of past generations?
One of the main attractive features of a new effort is that it's a global commitment. Almost every nation on earth joined together in establishing the Millennium Development Goals. And this means that there's a concerted effort now with as much harmony as possible among the so-called donor groups and a better understanding of the genuine plight of the poorest people who are suffering, and that we can more wisely provide the limited financial and other resources that we give to them in an effective way.
Sometimes as individuals, we feel uncertain as to how to get involved in major undertakings such as the Carter Center's global health efforts and the Millennium Development Goals. How can an average person help truly make a difference?
Well, one way, obviously, is for us to contact our political leaders and just encourage them to elevate the alleviation of suffering around the world to a higher position of importance than would ordinarily be considered. That's one way. Another one is in our own local communities to find ways to devote our resources, financial resources, and our time to alleviating the plight of the poor. In almost every community of a major nature in America, for instance, there's a Habitat for Humanity project going on. We can help for a few hours or maybe for a few days each year just building a home in partnership with poor people. Another one is to find some organization in which you have confidence. The Carter Center would be just one of many, like World Hunger or Catholic Relief Society or CARE or the Red Cross even, and either devote time or give a financial contribution to those organizations that are already in existence, and have proven that they are effective and that they use a financial contribution to a major degree, passing on the benefits of that contribution, and not just for internal organizational costs. So in all these ways, I think that average American or any other country can do tangible things. It just requires willingness to devote our own time personally and our own financial resources to help others.
You mentioned writing a letter to your member of Congress. When you were president and governor, what impact did the communication of your constituents have on you?
When I was in public office, the messages that I got from my constituents were a major consideration in my decision-making process. Sometimes when there was a crisis, when I was president, I might get 30 or 40,000 letters or messages just in one day on a matter of interest. And my staff would categorize the letters pro and con, a particular decision I had to make. And I would pay close attention if there was a heavy dominance of one side or the other. I would say the most effective letters, though, were the ones that didn't come from any outside influence, like a prepared letter, but were handwritten letters, for instance, that came from a human being who had a heartfelt interest in a particular subject that I might have inadvertently overlooked as a matter of importance. And to get 3 or 4 of those letters, say from diverse people in the United States, concerning an unaddressed or previously ignored subject would focus the attention of a president of the United States or a governor of a state on that. And quite often I would give a lot of attention to, say, collective letters from a group of students in a high school or college or university. It's not easy for 20 or 30 students on a campus to get together and say, I'm going to write the President of the United States, and these are the matters concerning, say, higher education that are very important to me. So I paid particular attention to those kinds of messages that came to me.
So we can make a difference.
We can. Every person can make a difference, particularly in a democracy like ours.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, and good luck with your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.